Hi, this is Michael.
And this is Steven, and we are the Movie Bros. Today, we are very excited to have a special guest join us for ScreamFest 2021 to talk about Scream 2, and he is Tim from Timothy Reacts. Hey, Tim.
Thank you so much for having me today. Excited to talk about this film.
We are too, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. And talking about Scream 2, it came out in on December 12th, 1997, starring Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, David Arquette, and tons of 90s stars all over the place. And it was directed by, of course, the late, great Wes Craven, who this is definitely, I think we would all agree, one of his masterpieces that he did in his long career in the horror genre. And so we're very excited to get started in this very soon and dig into it.
Yeah. One thing we would like for you to do is to like our video and to subscribe to our channel. And also, if you'll look down below, you'll see our Patreon page, our merch store, and all of our social media links, and also links to Timothy Reacts. So there's just one more thing to do.
It's trailer time!
There we go.
Wait, where's Drew Barrymore?
Hello?
He didn't make it.
Hello, Sydney. Remember me?
What do you want?
It's time, girlfriend. Don't you know history repeats itself?
Oh, yeah.
Last night, 2 college students were brutally murdered.
Police are everywhere.
The girl
They're so happy about that.
7 times.
Ow.
I know, right?
Hi, Gail Weathers, author of the Woodsboro murders.
She's an opportunist.
Be kind, she saved our lives.
Yeah, I know. I read all about it in the book.
I can't wait to see the movie.
Did you know the victims?
You feel threatened by the murder.
What am I supposed to do?
If there is some freaked out psycho, they're probably already in your life.
Okay, so you just want to sit here and wait to see who drops
Do we
next?
have the foretelling?
The way I see it, someone's got to make a sequel. So it's our
Oh,
job
Randy.
to observe the rules of the sequel. Number 1, the body count is always bigger. Number 2, the death scenes are always much more elaborate.
How do we find the killer, Randy? That's what I want to know.
Well, let's look at the suspects.
So many people.
Oh, all of them.
Yep, everybody. That's right.
I'm not interrupting anything, am I?
It's him. He can see us.
Do you want to die tonight?
Is that the best you can do? Why not set your goals higher, huh? You want to be one of the big boys? Manson? Bundy? OJ?
OJ.
Everyone's dying for.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Showgirls.
It's scary.
Absolutely frightening.
Was it? All right. Oh, man. So many awesome memories right there. My gosh.
So before we dive into specific scenes, let's discuss Scream 2 from an overall perspective. Tim, as our guest today, let's begin with your overall thoughts on Scream 2.
Like they mentioned in the trailer, a bigger body count, more elaborate death scenes, just similar movie to the first one, but even bigger and better. So yeah, it's a great sequel in general.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. In fact, I think it's one of the strongest sequels of any genre, perhaps even arguably, but especially in horror, because usually there's such a fall off after the first movie that's done well. And we could list all the franchises we probably would agree on with that. But I think Scream stands really unique in a way because that second one, I mean, there's a lot of Scream fans that feel like it's even their favorite of the franchise, which is, wow, kind of mind blowing, but it's really a good film. And what's also interesting is that, I don't know, Tim, if you're aware of this, you may already be, but this is not the original version of Scream 2 because
really?
Yes. So interesting story is they had got it all set and ready to go. And there was a script leak on the just newly accessible internet back in the day. This is 97. And basically the original Scream 2 had the killers being Haley, her roommate, Derek, her boyfriend, played by Jerry O'Connell, and still a mastermind by Debbie Salt, but two different killers. So when that got leaked, Wes and Kevin Williamson got together and they rewrote who the killers would be, and they changed it to just Mickey and Debbie Salt.
At what point in the production were they just done the script, or were they already started with the process?
Yeah, so that's a little fuzzy. I don't know for sure where they were in the process, but they had already had the scripts done, and the story was already green-lighted to go with that. And someone, if they know who, they never said, but
I hope that person got fired,
Yeah, well, you imagine exactly. They definitely were not in the movie at that point if they knew who it was, right? So, but that's just, to me, sets such even a great backdrop, because despite that change, it was still a fantastic movie. I mean, honestly, watching it overall, we're talking now, you would never know that was a last minute change. It flowed really well. And another thing I was going to mention, just overall, before we get into a lot of scene details, just some cameos real quick. So I don't know if you guys noticed it or not, but Stu returns from the grave and has a cameo in the party scene at the sorority house that Sydney goes to where the pledges want her to go. And anyway, they go outside of her house in the backyard, and there's a tiny little scene, and he's a background character, but I think he even has glasses on, and his hair's like white, really blonde white. Anyway, it's Matthew Lillard. He was on set when they were filming as a guest, and Wes went ahead and let him get in there in a really small, scene back there. And of course, we saw Mr. Craven himself in Scream 2 as a cameo, which he normally does, and we saw him, last time as the janitor, right, in Scream. And now we see him as a doctor in the hospital just after the first murder in the sorority house where Sid's there. And if you look real close, you'll see him back there with the chart in the background. And then finally, we had a cameo from Freddy Krueger, but not the way you think. We had a cameo of his sweater in Sid's closet in the dorm. When she opens it up, there's a nice Freddy Krueger colored sweater hanging on the door, I thought that was a great little Easter egg that Craven threw in there. Mike, how about you, man? What do you think overall? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I liked it. I liked the interaction of all the main characters that made it from the first one. And but I read online about the original script, and there were originally supposed to be 4 killers. Did you know about that?
Refresh me. I don't know about that. I
don't
know about 4.
Originally, the way it was supposed to be scripted, that was leaked. Loomis was still the killer, and she had the 2 accomplices, Sydney's boyfriend Derek and her friend Haley. Yep. Loomis would have shot them both dead, despite them helping her.
You're talking about Cotton. Cotton Weary, aren't you? Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Okay. And so Cotton Weary kills Miss Loomis to save Gail and Sydney, but then he kills Gail and tells Sydney he wants to get revenge and make some fast cash in the process. And then Weary goes after her, and the 2 fight, and that winds up with both of them dying on the ground.
Yeah, so it was going to be a cliffhanger. Yeah, they were going to. I forgot about that completely until you said that. That's right. They were going to originally have them just what you said. And they said it was going to end as a cliffhanger with Cotton Weary and Sydney fighting it out and shooting each other. And it was going to end there without knowing what happened to them. And Wes Craven said, no, we're not gutsy enough to do that. We don't know if we're going to get a 3rd movie. And so they changed the ending. So good call, man. That's right. I forgot. Do you know about that, Tim? Had you heard that?
No, I had no clue at all. But 4 killers, that's a bit much. And leaving on a cliffhanger, especially if you don't know you're going to do a sequel. Yeah, that's probably not the best idea.
Isn't that the worst thing? Like if you see a movie with a cliffhanger and they never make another one, there's no resolution. It's the worst, isn't it?
For sure.
The second thing, I'm sure you know it, Steve, and I don't know if you know it, Tim, but when Sydney was in her dorm room and they had the TV on and it showed Cotton Weary on the current edition, the guy interviewing was screenwriter Kevin Williamson, who wrote the script.
I missed that. How did I miss that?
That's so great that there are so many cameos in this film, you know, just either screenwriters or the director himself.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you one more if you really want to dig deep on cameos.
Sure.
At the beginning of Scream 2 in the theater, when Omar Epps and Jada Pinkett Smith are coming in, there's a guy that she goes up to and later on, he gets popcorn and a drink. And the guy that's serving her or hands her the popcorn is the like the assistant AP on Wes Craven's crew that's handing her the and in Scream 3 in the studio tour, when Jay and Silent Bob show up and Wes Craven's there and his cameo and the tour guy, that same guy, the AP's there with shades on eating popcorn as he walks by the camera. So he was giving the popcorn in one film and eating it in the second and the third one. So yeah, Wes is like notorious for throwing his crew members in his movies, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Well, besides all that, my overall thought of Scream was I liked it. Yeah.
So. Fantastic. Well, you know, and a crew member almost died making this film. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but remember when Sydney was doing the play with Troy, and they had the fog and the smoke, the dry ice, all that stuff going on. Wes Craven, Wes told a story that one of the crew members who was in charge of the dry ice stuff that they used was down in the orchestra pit down there and keeping that stuff going. Well, his mask came off and he couldn't find it, and he was breathing in huge amounts of carbon dioxide, and he passed out in the orchestra pit.
Oh my!
Yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh! And they shut everything down. The other crew members were jumping down the pit and screaming for help, and they had to get an ambulance to take him to the hospital. And I'm like, and it's like we said he literally just about died on set, but he recovered okay, so he was fine. But dude, it's dangerous making a horror movie, Tim. You know, even making one
for sure. It makes it for a pretty interesting story, then. You know, years later, you can talk about it.
It totally does. Well, listen, guys, since we kind of talked about it overall, I think those are some great memories. So why don't we transition now to talk about specific scenes? Because we really want to celebrate Scream 2, right? We're here to discuss it and celebrate this great movie. So let's talk about our favorite scenes, because we could talk about probably a million of them tonight. But Tim, let's start with you, man. What would be some of your favorite scenes you remember from the movie?
It's really funny because I took a couple notes earlier. You know, I had some of the questions, some of the stuff. And one of the scenes was actually the scene in the theater. That's actually what I wanted to talk about. So pretty funny that we actually talked about that. But it's nice getting a bit more, you know, context, some behind the scenes stuff. But yeah, that scene, I remember first time seeing it, like everybody around her, she's just being overwhelmed. And then everybody, you know, kind of pretending to trying to hurt her, but there's actually somebody there trying to hurt her. That scene, I just remember it being so tense.
Yeah.
Yes. And you see, and they do a good job too. Like you wonder for a second, if she's seeing that, is that her PTSD kicking in or something? But no, I think you're right. I think it was Ghostface, and he's already, he got the big hood, so it's easy to slip in and out without being seen. And how creepy would that be, man? You're right, Tim. That would be like, oh my gosh, to be on stage.
Especially to Sydney, you know, it could have been to anybody else, but she was the one being traumatized right there. So
yes, oh my gosh, absolutely. That was tough. Mike, what about you, man?
I have actually three scenes. My funny scene, nostalgic, and intense. So the funny one was when Gail was talking to Dewey, and she said she feels bad, and she lights a cigarette, and Dewey says, "Since when do you smoke?" And Randy says, "Since those nude pictures of you on the internet." And Gail said, "It was just my head. They used Jennifer Aniston's body." So I thought that was kind of funny since her and Jennifer Aniston are good friends.
Well, and at that time when this came out, remember, Friends was was hugely popular.
Yes.
So that was still airing when she did these movies. So it's great to have a reference to one of her coworkers from Friends.
Yeah,
that's funny.
The nostalgic one was when after the first couple murders, and all of a sudden Sydney looks up and you hear the music change, and it's Dewey standing over there. It's kind of a nostalgic thing since he came back from the first one, and how clueless he looks, looking around and stuff, and you just can't help but like him. And then the most intense one, I think, was when Sydney and her friend are in the back of the cop car and it crashes.
Oh,
and they have to climb over the ghost face person through the car because he had been knocked out. And that was those scenes. That scene was probably pretty trauma. It created trauma for me,
bro. So. No, Tim. Do you remember that scene, Tim? What were your thoughts on that when you watched that scene?
I don't remember much. I've seen this once or twice, but I definitely remember seeing it to be like, oh, okay, just so many surprising moments. This is why I really like watching this kind of film. And there's just some stuff come out of nowhere. Don't know who will survive, who won't. So
that's right. And and the intensity was just, and Wes even talked about that scene, saying how he was so happy because he could draw the tension out longer, because when Sydney gets out, then you're just like, everyone in the audience is going to say, okay, well, her friend Haley, she's toast. She's not going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they bring her out to the same way, and then she gets out. And it's like, the audience is like, oh, you can breathe a relief. And then they walk away and she gets killed anyway. And it's like, oh, but that was a great scene, Mike. I'm glad you brought that one up. I'll tell you what, one of my favorite scenes, and this is a theme in all the Scream films, is the opening 15, 20 minutes of the film. And when we see Omar Epps and Jada Pinkett Smith going to the theater, and oh man, the bathroom stall murder, excuse me, the first kill of the movie, right, is in the bathroom stall of a movie theater. And Wes said on that particular scene that in the script, Kevin Williamson just said he walks into the bathroom and Wes makes it scary. that was all. So he said, Wes said he basically came up with that whole kill from his own mind. He said, I want to do something that I hadn't seen before. And one of his crew members, who's been with him for years, told him a story about a New York mafia pen king a long time ago, who actually killed one of the guys in real life, who was sitting down, and he stabbed him through the back of a chair. And this actually happened. And Wes took that idea and said, you know what? I'm going to do that through a bathroom stall wall. And that's how that scene came about. Literally, Wes created that kill himself while he was filming it. And I thought that was pretty interesting. And then the poor killing of Maureen Evans, Jada Pinkett Smith's character, in front of hundreds of people, being stabbed, and no one even knows it's happening. They think it's a publicity stunt, and what a horror. And then she thinks her boyfriend's killing her, like, to make it even more sick. This is because she thinks he's back from the restroom. Now he's stabbing her. So how about to be killed by who you think is your closest, companion, in front of everybody, and no one saves you? I mean, dude, it's pretty twisted.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
Another one I have to bring up, and I want you guys to jump in on this. And actually, Tim, you mentioned it already a little bit earlier, but Randy's rules of a sequel. How can we not talk about the awesome Randy's rules section, right? So the first rule is, number one is what? The body count is always bigger in a sequel. Number two, the death scenes are always more elaborate, more blood, more gore. And what does he say? Carnage candy, to quote Randy. And now, Tim, here's one that I think you'll especially be interested in, because the third rule, he starts to say, never, never, and never, ever, under any circumstances, and Dewey cuts him off. And in your reaction video, you said, man, I really want to know what that third rule was. Remember that?
Yeah.
And,
I remember that. Yeah.
And you actually gave a guess of what you thought it was. Do you know what it was? When you
I don't think my guess is right, but I think I said, if I remember correctly, that the main character doesn't die, or like the main cast doesn't get hurt, because if you want to make a sequel or whatnot, you need Sydney.
That's right. Exactly right. And that was a great guess. And I'm happy to tell you, I can officially tell you what the actual third rule was, because it was shown in a teaser trailer for Scream 2 when it first came out. and then they took it out of the film. It was never made actually in the final cut. What the actual rule was, never ever under any circumstances assume the kill. Sorry, I had blanked out. Assume the killer is dead. Never ever.
Okay, that makes sense. Every time we're dead, then they wake up, then they get shot. You know.
Yes,
every
always.
time.
That's right. And of course, Randy just coming off of the events in Scream 1, when when Billy came back, so he's like he saw that firsthand, right? So that was the one. And then the last scene I'll mention, then we can move on. I think it's worth mentioning is the scene with Gail and Dewey being stalked by Ghostface in the theater room, the library, recording studio. That whole sequence where Gail and him get separated, and she gets in this recording studio with the soundproof walls, and it's a cat and mouse, and she's hiding behind the panels, and he's trying to find her. And then finally she turns to see poor Dewey, who we think is getting murdered, right? And she can't hear him, and she has to watch it. And just, man, that was some high tension. To me, that kind of rivaled the car scene with tension for me, because I mean, even now when I watch it, I've seen this movie 40, 50 times, Tim. And even now I still get tensed up there, even I know what's going to happen. But as we all are happy to know, at the end, Dewey lives, right? Once again, Wes Craven, just like Scream 1, he said they filmed it with him dying. And he also said, nope, I want to also film a second time with him on a stretcher, just like he did in Scream 1. And they kept it, thankfully. So
I think that's great. Definitely to, avoid leaks or whatnot. If you film some stuff, you film some other one, which one's actually going to be the film?
Yeah,
people can't necessarily talk about it on the internet.
That's right. And that's so smart. And not to talk about anything, I'm not to jump out of our box we're in with Scream 2, but for the new Scream 5 movie coming out, which is another discussion, but that they've actually filmed 4 or 5 endings. So the actors have no way of knowing the real ending until it comes out in theaters. They don't even know, which is pretty cool.
Pretty cool, but so much work, so much unnecessary work, if we're not going to get to see it. But
They should make a movie with all 4 endings where you can like make your own story.
Oh,
that would be fun. Choose your own adventure type.
Yeah,
type
exactly.
Yeah, you pick your ending, and
Yeah.
then we can have battles of like whose ending's the best. That would be crazy. All right, so guys, here's a question I'll ask here. Tim, let's start with you. What was your number 1 favorite kill in Scream 2, or have it saying another way, what death affected you the most or impacted you the most?
Gotta say the death that impacted me the most, probably Randy.
Oh man,
his death, it came out of nowhere. I really did not expect it. This was what I like about this film. But when you get attached to a character like that, and then he just goes, I was like, oh, okay. At first, I was like, okay, maybe he could have potentially survived, but then you see the body, and I'm like, oh, okay, we're doing this.
It's done, right? I know, and that's Wes actually said that he didn't want to show him getting stabbed on camera because he said he didn't want to do that to the fans. That's why you don't see him getting stabbed. But then when they opened the door, he said, I told my prop guy, I want lots of blood. I want everyone to know that Randy's dead when they opened the door. And you're right. You could tell like he's not coming back from that. But that scene also, Tim, was shocking because it's one of the only times in Scream that we have a kill in broad daylight. It's almost always done at night.
That's true. Haven't thought about that, but yeah.
Yeah, it's an afternoon kill. And not only that, it's in a public square at the college where there's people around. So all of us, when we watch it, we have we never suspect a murder happening then. And then when you throw Randy into it, it really throws you off. So yeah, that was a good one, man. I mean, not good that he died, but a good
yeah, for sure. Also wanted to quickly mention, I know I'm recycling your ideas, but I wrote it down before. So I wrote it down before. But you mentioned it previously, the first death in the bathroom stall.
Yeah.
Also, that came out of nowhere. For me, I didn't think it was physically possible to do it, but apparently it is. So that just really surprised me right in the beginning. But you start with some tension and right off the bat, kind of setting you for the rest of the film.
Yes, absolutely. That's the way these movies always start. They set the bar, don't they? They set the tone for what's to come, and man, they always deliver. The first 4 have really delivered, I think. And Scream 3 was a big one. And when he walked into the bathroom and the guys were standing up at the stalls and he turned around, they all got the full Ghostface garb. I'm like, dude, I would just I don't know what I would do, but that would not be fun. That would not be cool. My favorite death or favorite kill or impacted me the most, it's not really a favorite. It's impacted me the most was when Derek, Sid's boyfriend, played by Jerry O'Connell. This poor guy, man, he was the nicest guy. If you watch this movie, he treats her with understanding. He never yells at her. He never argues with her. He's like the ultimate understanding person. And I hated to see him get killed, man. And, he made such an impact on Sid that she continued to wear his Greek letter necklace in Scream 3, remember? She still wore the Greek letter necklace that she has. But anyway, and then when Mickey came up there at the end and tried to make Sid think that he was part of it, like, I can't believe you got away from me, partner. I couldn't do this on myself. And she didn't know who to believe. It was kind of back when Randy and Stu were going back and forth in Scream 1. Anyway, that was for me. That was the one that impacted me the most because I felt really bad for Sidney and for him, obviously, because he didn't survive. But that's the one that I didn't like the most.
The kills that affected me the most were actually Sarah Michelle Gellar, Cece, who played Cece, Jada Pinkett, who played Maureen Evans, and Omar Epps, who played Phil Stevens.
I see a thread.
Reason why is because they were senseless deaths. There was no reason behind them besides that they had one name that matched the names of the people that died in Scream 1.
Right.
So I think it was totally senseless deaths, and it hurt my heart when I found out why they died in the first place. There was not really any connection at all. So
no, the only other connection was just that they were in Sydney's life at college, but as far as direct, like really connection, you're right. No, it was just, how about that, man? You killed for your last name, and that's awful.
Yeah, or your first name,
or your first name, right? Never really stopped to think about that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of messed up stuff in this movie, but it's good. We love it.
All right. So we're going to transition to our favorite characters that are not named Sidney, Dewey, Gail, or Randy, and why. So Tim, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I gotta say, probably I really enjoyed Cotton, kind of a redemption of his character. Love a good redemption story. So at first wasn't too sure what kind of character he was gonna be, but really happy how he turned out in the film.
Yes. My favorite line from Cotton in this movie was at the very end when he's got the gun and Debbie Salt has got the knife at Sidney's throat. And he says, I bet that Diane Sawyer interview is looking real good about right now. And she says, consider it done. And it's like, bam,
finally got his interview. Finally got it.
Finally did.
Wants to get his money, man.
Hey, look, a year in prison without any calls, I understand. I'm like, go, man, more power to you. He was a little creepy still, but I liked the guy. I liked Cotton, but yeah. Okay.
Oh, one thing about that was in the end of Scream 1, you see Courtney Cox, Sidney, and Randy standing together. And then Randy dies in Scream 2. At the end of Scream 2, it's Courtney Cox, Sidney, and Cotton. And who dies in Scream 3? Cotton.
Yep.
So it's kind of like a synergistic effect, I guess. I don't know. Just don't end up with Cotton and or Sidney and Gail Weathers at the end of any murder scenes.
No doubt, man. And I love Sidney. I think Craven built a great final girl character. She's really strong. But I got to tell you, if she moved in next door, brother, I'm moving out. I'm sorry. I'm not.
For sure, 100%.
I'll be like, you know what? I'll email you. We can chat online. I'm not going to be around you at all.
My favorite character was Sidney's roommate, and I forgot her name. Haley, that's it. Yeah. She seemed like such a strong, knowledgeable person and had a good head on her shoulders. Yeah. And it's a shame she died, but she was there for Sidney and was a good friend. So
she was. And I hate to see her die, but I'd rather see that than her be the killer at the end.
True.
where she was manipulating that relationship just to, it's even more messed up. But that's a good one, man. I'll tell you what, for me, I think mine would be Derek. I'm going back to Jerry O'Connell. He didn't have a ton of screen time, but I think that he was such a stabilizing force in Sydney's life, and the fact that she, oh gosh, is even dating again after what happened with Billy. Man. And he was a good guy, man. And he proved throughout the movie that he was very understanding. He was never, like Billy was always like, my mom left. You need to get over it. And her mom had died. I'm like, dude, it's so insensitive, And here's Jerry. Well, that's his real name, but here's Derek, who's being so sensitive and caring and just wanting to be there for her. And so I hated to see him die. And just, that would be the one I would pick. So guys, I'll tell you what, let's do this. Let's move forward now and talk about our final thoughts on Scream 2. We've talked about a lot of scenes, characters and stuff, but Tim, what are your overall thoughts on this film? What would you say to kind of close up our Scream talk?
Like we mentioned in the beginning, it's definitely a really great sequel. Just even more deaths, just like coming back to the 3 roles, even bigger, even better than the first one. I like how it was connected, especially with the beginning of a film. How we had, a movie inside of a movie, kind of a Inception type of thing. So I really like that when we're getting that with all of the movies.
Yes, it was pretty cool to see a movie within the movie. And then of course the fact that they actually got Tori Spelling to play Sydney, which was the big joke in Scream 1, Yeah. And anyway, that's so meta, and it just was great. That's awesome, man. I think my overall thoughts on it is that I kind of already shared mine as well, really, but it's an outstanding film, guys. It's a great movie. It's a strong sequel. I consider it a Wes Craven masterpiece, and I really do. And I think it was so well done, and it's a favorite of the franchise, like I said, by a lot of people. We're not going to talk about individual rankings and where we rank movies in this video, but it definitely is a strong film that I thoroughly enjoy, no matter how many times I watch it. And so I think it's a great movie. Mike, what are your overall final thoughts on this movie?
Well, I liked it. It was sad, with Randy's death and some other people that died, but Randy's death, was kind of tough. But it was in a lot more gory deaths, but it could have been, from these 3 movies, or the first 3 Scream movies, you could have just said, at the end of Scream 1, you could have just said 1 year later, and then just kept going with Scream 2, or 2 years later.
2 years later, yeah.
And kept going with Scream 2, and then at the end of Scream 2, you could have said 2 more years later, and ended up with Scream 3, and made it all one huge movie. Because there was so much great continuance throughout these movies. And I think that's probably one thing that, attracts me to this movie, even though I'm not a horror buff. I like the continuance and the standards that he set to keep everything the same, so that's my thoughts.
It's a great observation. And it really is rare in horror. It really is rare. Like even in the big franchises, Jason, Michael Myers, whatever, you see like Michael Myers in all the movies, and you see Laurie Strode in some of them. That's the closest I can think of to what Scream has done with continuity. But most of the time, it's just same killer, all new cast, right?
Yeah.
Same killer, all new people. So
because they wipe everybody out.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, everyone dies. So that's awesome. Good thoughts. So Tim, let's talk about Timothee Reacts channel.
All right. All right. I'm here.
This is a great channel, guys. Listen, if you've never experienced Tim's reaction videos yet, you are missing out. You need to go to his channel. If you look in the description below, there'll be a link after this video's done. Don't go yet. We're not done yet, but we're getting there. But click that link when this video is done. Go visit his site. Watch his videos. In fact, he's done Scream reaction videos. Really good stuff.
Yes.
They're really good. I highly recommend starting there because that's where I started on his channel and I fell in love. So Tim, tell everyone what else they can experience when they come visit you.
I watch movies and TV shows that I haven't seen before. Every week I check out 3 new movies. So from whatever genres, generally I go with themes. I do a bit of everything, but now, I'm going to be doing a bit more horror September, October, but doing comedies, superhero films, action, pretty much anything, and also covering Game of Thrones right now. So doing just a bunch of shows, bunch of stuff all the time, just discovering new stuff that I'm not familiar with and showing my first time reaction and then just talking about the film.
Yes, and you do a great job. And the Matrix videos, I mean, I could just keep going on. There's so many good. I've not seen a bad one yet, so they're really fun.
Thank you.
I really mean that. I really do. I sincerely mean that. So we really appreciate you, Tim, for joining us today to celebrate Scream 2 as part of our ScreamFest 2021. And we're not done yet, are we, Mike?
No, we're not.
That's right. We've got more to come. We got Scream 3. We've got Scream 4. And we also have a final Scream video where we're going to talk about the franchise. We're going to rank all the movies. And we're going to talk Scream 5, folks. So that's coming. So if you haven't done so yet, smash the like button and that bell button right now. So that way you can be notified when we drop our next video, which will be Scream 3. That's coming right around the corner. All right, so don't forget to do that. So guys, listen, one more time for this video. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Tim. And again, my name is Steven.
And this is Michael and our special guest, Tim from Timothee Reacts.
Yeah.
And we are the Movie Bros.